Hi there. I'm Smita Murthy, managing partner at Open Cliff Partners. We're a product advisory and consulting firm. As a woman who spent over 25 years in tech, product, and leadership in corporate roles, I have crossed paths with inspiring women who walk the talk, have an abundance mindset, and have helped shape my career journey. My hope is through my actions while in corporate roles and now in this chapter of my professional life that I give back and pay it forward. There's plenty of research that shows that women don't have enough women role models to look up to learn from, and to emulate. And very few women leaders who break the glass ceiling, be it in corporate, entrepreneurial, or other arenas, actually support other women in terms of being a champion, a sponsor, or an advocate. And worse, see them as competition. The inspiration for this podcast series is to showcase women in tech, product, and leadership who inspire, who actually help, and are positive influences for those who have the good fortune to be in their orbits, lifting as they climb. Today, I couldn't be more excited than to host Julie Castro Abrams.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. What a beautiful tee up. I'm teary-eyed.
Yes. Julie is the founder and general partner of How Women Invest, a venture fund laser focused on investing in the highest performing women-founded companies with over 25 years in financial services and supporting small business owners. She has supported more than 6,000 women entrepreneurs. Through her leadership as CEO of How Women Lead, Julie played a pivotal role in the passage of California's SB 826, a landmark law mandating the inclusion of women on corporate boards. Her work sits at the intersection of impact investing and gender equity, with the mission to demystify venture capital, important, and transform the investing landscape to better reflect the power and potential of women. She is a leading voice in the movement to reshape how women invest, foster leadership, and ensure that more women fund and scale women-founded companies. Julie, I have goosebumps. As you know, from the very first time we met, I have been a huge fan. And I am so thankful to have you on the show. Welcome to the show.
Right back at you. I'm all about us doing it together, and you're one of the good ones. So thank you very much for having me today.
Absolutely. That is very humble. You do so much for everyone. I am grateful. And the audience is going to be getting this amazing, energizing conversation from you, like I always do whenever I speak with you. So why don't we get right into it?
Let's do it.
So what inspired and shaped your journey and why?
Well, I have to tell you, and this is not very something that most of us talk about in public, but I grew up in a Catholic household and Catholic church, and it was interesting because I really believed it all. It hit me emotionally. I was like, oh, this is how you live your life. And then I realized everybody else was a hypocrite, right? And it was like, going to church on Sunday in your fancy dress and talking smack about everybody is not what the point was, right? And so I wouldn't consider myself religious at all at this life stage, but the values framework of caring for other people and in being a safe haven and giving away your worldly goods, like all of that really is my framework in my life. And I'm kind of in an interesting place. I grew up with a great education. I went to great colleges and have a lot of privilege because of that. But I actually found a lot of the environment, as you can imagine, in the 90s when I was in my first jobs, really distasteful. And I was like, I am not putting my life force into this environment that's so hostile and it's all about the money and people are backstabbing. Like I just couldn't do it. and never really did, because I wanted to make the world a better place. And so I actually started my career, and still do, running nonprofits and helping solve social problems. And so my first thesis around change making was a, a strengths-based approach to poverty alleviation. So when someone is in, poverty, which, somebody would tell me that's not the right way to describe it, right, at this day and age. But when somebody doesn't have financial resources, there's a lot of stuff going on, and it often is accompanied by some really brutal other things in life, whether some violence or predatory stuff in your life. So my philosophy was, hey, if I could help somebody who's been a domestic violence survivor start their own company and give them a loan and help them be successful, there is no better way to transform her self-identity, how other people react to her, and also build her sense of her ability to stand on her own 2 feet. So saying I'm the CEO of a company, that's a pretty powerful statement. Even if it's you and, a couple half-time people helping you out. But you're running your own company, and that's brilliant and beautiful. And then the next stage of my career, it was really like, how can I get a whole bunch of Smithas together, and let's change things together. Let's change laws. Let's make sure we change hearts and minds. Like, every woman should know about getting on a board. Every woman should know about investing in venture. Tell 10 friends after you listen to this today. And then to get into action and actually build structures, break down broken systems and build structures like our venture firm. We have 3 funds in our venture firm, and we're doing some other big stuff that you'll hear about over time. That, to me, activating this generation of us is a huge opportunity, very different than the sort of adjacency to a lot of crises. Is a different kind of energy at this life stage, which is a little better for me right now.
Yeah. And by the way, just so you know, as someone who's met you in person and have listened to you many times, it comes from a place of authenticity and deep passion, and it's evident in how you approach it and how you communicate what is your inspiration, and it just jazzes the room up.
Oh,
it is amazing. So thank you. Really, really appreciate that.
Okay, can I tell you one of the reasons why?
Yeah.
I've never worked for a man in my life. I've been the CEO of my own thing since I was 32, but before that I was the number 2 for 7 years behind a woman. But I've literally never worked for a man in my life. And I've not worked in these corporate environments that were so hostile, where people had to build these, calluses and have so many bruises, and, it actually causes health impacts for a lot of women. I didn't do that path. And so I actually have a different lens, which gives me some freedom. And now in my life stage, like, I'm not doing anything to pander to anybody else. Let's put it that way. I'm going to do whatever I think is the right thing to do. You can't do that when you're 25 years old necessarily, but certainly it feels great to be at this life stage.
Absolutely. And for some of us who have been in corporate, we do have those scars and wounds.
Absolutely.
And I would be remiss if I didn't say there are some amazing allies in the workforce, right?
Just like corporate environments were not designed for women. We're the first generation of us. They weren't ready to change all the practices, and now I see things evolving, right? But that's certainly too late for you and me. Maybe it'll be good for my daughter, but even my daughter, she's 32. When she was hired in her job, a year later, she negotiated and got 8% more than she was offered. And a year later, they fired the CEO. It's one of those big tech companies that have big issues. They brought in the attorney general, and they did an audit and made sure women and people of color were paid equitably with white guys. She got a 40% increase in her salary.
Oh, wow. That goes to show. despite her negotiating at the beginning.
Yeah.
Wow.
What 23-year-old knows how to negotiate for 50% higher than they actually offered her? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And so,
And
you
you're
know,
almost
it's still
scared to do
happening.
it. Yeah.
It's still in our society. It's still happening. So
Wow.
anyway,
Yeah.
we gotta, you know what? This is my solution. Yes, I married a man. I birthed one. I got some good guy friends, and I respect a lot of great men. But ladies, we need to do it for ourselves. We need to go like invest in companies run by women so we can have people. We don't have to convince someone why you need medical leave or, you know, all those things. So
Absolutely. Well, you kind of alluded, or rather it was very obvious what some of your key leadership lessons are that you live by. But why don't you talk a little bit more about some key leadership lessons that you live by and that are kind of cornerstones for who you are?
well, I would say lessons are more my own evolution, but here's an example. Like my first CEO job, I was like, I want to be a feminist leader. And like, what does that even mean? And what's the playbook for that? And so I remember I had this executive coach and she was like, you know, she was like trying to figure out how it would be right for me to learn a lesson. She's like, go dancing with your husband, let him lead, and then come back and tell me how that goes. And it was like, real, of course, as you can imagine, you know, I got a strong personality. So I married someone who's very sweet and I lead. And he wasn't stepping up, and that made me aggravated. And it was like, and she was like, this is what your team feels like. You think you're being a feminist leader, but you're literally not taking on the leadership mantle that you are supposed to take on. And so this idea that everything should be democratic is inefficient and frustrating to people around you. And and you need to have the courage to figure out, like, you know, sure, I step back when other people are leading. I give other people lots of leadership opportunities, but if I'm designated as the leader, I better take responsibility and lead. So that, you know, things like that, I think have been sort of interesting lessons.
Yeah, amazing. And this next one, I don't think I've already introduced you and we know some of this, but what are all the ways in which you leverage your success to help other women in their careers?
Well, every single thing I do helps other women in their careers. So like, you know, that's all I do. But, you know, I think having been a leader myself gives me a whole different perspective. You know, so often, you know, people are out there, you know, supposedly giving advice, and you're like, you have no idea. What have you done? And I'll tell you, for me, I am, you know, right now I'm trying to move $3 billion of capital to women founders and women run venture firms. That's huge. And the courage it takes to say it and to map a plan to make it happen is a big deal. So, you know, I think, you know, how do you get out of your own way? All of the messages you heard growing up about limitations or whatever it is from your family, from society, from that, you know, that not careful teacher who said that thing that you remember for your entire life, and they would never have meant to make you feel that, you know, that you have a deficit, right? I work really hard to move beyond those messages in my head, because I certainly have them like everybody else. They creep up, but how, you know, creating a practice so that I can wrestle those things to the ground and say, no, and to me, back to this sort of like raison d'etre, it's like, I need to do this to make the world a better place. Yeah. You know, it is urgent and critical. And if I want to leave the world a better place for my daughter and my son and the people I care about, you know, and just society in general, like I need to not, you know, all the people who haven't done it give me a lot of negative messages. And that's the thing. It's like, well, if you've done it, come talk to me. But otherwise, like, keep your negative, you know, scarcity mindset to yourself.
That's right. That's right. And
I'm trying to do big stuff.
Yeah, no, and you know, it's important for me to highlight, especially with this recording, the fact that the number of women that you have helped through How Women Lead, and now through How Women Invest, women venture capitalists investing in women founded companies that are going to go gangbusters and return way more than the market average. That is something that you need to be incredibly proud of, and all the people working with you need to recognize that, because this is big.
It's big, but it's also, I just want everybody to understand the dissonance. It makes no sense, and we are irresponsible in how we're managing the flow of capital in the United States right now. Women, at the very least, return 35% more for their investors. And often it is seen as, some studies show double. And because they have to have so much grit to get going, and they don't get as much, they don't blow up companies and then crash if they don't get the next round of financing. And so, if we're good investors, we should be investing 90% of the time in female founders. But in the society, only 2% of venture funds go to companies founded by women. That is irresponsible. And there are structures that are reinforcing that, well, the white guy runs Sequoia Ventures or Andreessen Horowitz, whatever, right? That those are safer bets. That is not even remotely true if you actually look at the data, but that is a bias that we have. And part of it goes back to this bias in our culture that says men, we believe in their potential. They're hired, they're promoted, and they get investments all based on like, how big can this be and your potential. And most women that I talk to, they're like, oh yeah, I've been passed up for the guy that was less qualified that they said had potential. And women, on the contrast, are hired, promoted, and invested in for what they've already done. And it's all risk managed conversations. And if you're brown or black, it's like you had to have done it many times to be able to get credibility. And so if you just think about the implications then for, and the lost opportunity when we do that, it's a societal thing. And so any woman who's listening to this, anyone who says, oh, you didn't apply to the job if because you didn't have 100% of the, no kidding, because literally that's what the culture's taught. You've learned the culture well, and that is why you behave the way you do. You are not a small man. The culture doesn't treat you like a small white guy. The culture treats you very different. And so giving yourself forgiveness and then figure out what strategies you're going to use to create the life where you can really build off your talents and be able to make the world, your oyster. To me, that's the whole point.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. So I'm sure at some point in your life, you have reached out to others to help you as you were growing your nonprofits, or as you started the venture wing of how women, right? Yeah. What are some of the best ways people have helped you?
Well, I'll just tell you, so most of you listening, if I asked you, do you like to help other people? All of you are going to say, absolutely. Yeah. If I say, do you like to ask for help? Most of us say, not at all. What about you, Smitha? Do you like to ask for help?
Yeah, I've learned that if I don't ask, I won't get.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that you can learn in this process is literally you're giving people a gift. All those people who like to be asked to help, you are not giving them an opportunity to step up and help if you don't ask them. Yeah. And so I think it's just really important for us to understand that our ego is part of the equation then, and we should be asking because it's a gift to other people. And so people help me in every single way every day. And I ask people all the time, I'm like, hey, would you train people on that expertise that you have in AI? Or would you mind giving me a couple hours so that my team can learn about these new technical tools or whatever? And, we're looking for, we have structures where we help nonprofit social impact leaders, and we ask people to be global advisors. I had 3 calls this morning where I asked people to be global advisors. I think it's a gift to them. They get to advise a CEO of a social impact organization solving, period poverty or underemployment of kids in Uganda, like whatever it is, like that is somebody else is solving these cool problems. It feels great to give back, but you got to ask them.
Yeah, yeah. And I think specifically like some of the guests have talked about not just ask, which I fully endorse, because if you don't ask, you don't get, be it in corporate or any other arena, because unless you advocate for yourself, people won't, like we just said the statistic about on your potential, nobody is going to promote you or give you that big raise or any of those things. So absolutely. So some of the other things that people have talked about is for me, one thing that always bothered me in corporate is, oh, you should get a mentor. Women get so over mentored.
They're over-mentored and under-sponsored.
Right? Correct. It drives me up the wall. I'm like,
give me a promotion. Invest in my project area. Don't tell me how I should dress or like whatever it is that you think from your own limited viewpoint, your advice.
Yes. So I think like, at least for those of you who are still in corporate, just remember that like the true help that you can get in your career trajectory is when you have an advocate, a sponsor, and you can't ask for that.
They have to believe in you and have seen you in action and want
and
want to promote you when you're not in the room, right?
Correct. And genuinely build a relationship with people.
Yeah.
That's when they'll advocate for you. You can't say, hey, I want Julie, I would love for you to be my advocate. Right? It doesn't work that way. So I love that. All right. Can you please share your favorite life lesson quote and how that is relevant to you in your life?
So despite the fact that now I'm overexposed and pretty visible and speak all the time, I learned the culture well, that I should not take up so much space. And so in my 20s, I was like, I'm the behind the scenes person, like a lot of us do, right? I, help other people shine. There's this Marianne Williamson poem about shining your light. And it basically, there's one phrase, it's like, when you shine your light, when you fully step into your, what you're about, you unwittingly give other people permission to do the same. And I think it's really important to understand my daughter's watching you to take cues on what kind of space she gets to take up, what kind of leadership she gets to assert. And if you shrink, if you don't step into it, if you, as a grown woman, aren't leading, what are you telling my daughter? So I think that's to me, like it's because it's like overcoming what we were taught, essentially.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love that. And I think a related one that comes to mind is just because I'm not quoting it correctly, but essentially it's like, just because the light is shining on someone else doesn't mean it's dimming your brilliance. Yeah. That's that abundance mindset where there's room for everyone to shine.
Yeah.
You don't, just because you're, and for me, I think that also stuck with me a little bit, because too many times, especially in corporate, like where we talk about the scars some of us carry, is, women get to like these positions of leadership and influence, and there's all the employee resource groups where they talk about, like lift as you climb, send the elevator back down. But are you really doing it?
Yes.
Right? Like to your point about when you ask anyone, do you want to help? Yes, everyone wants to help. Yes. But are you really helping? Yes. Or are you intentional about wanting to help? And I think there's just too many examples, unfortunately, where that doesn't happen. So that abundance mindset and the thing of just because the light is shining on someone else doesn't dim your own light, I think is just important to remember, because there's room for all of the brilliance to shine together. I'm paraphrasing the whole thing into my own. So anyway, and Julie, are you a book fan? Do you have any book recommendations that that could help your
Sure.
audience?
I'm constantly reading. There's a book that just came out that's called Force for Good. And it's really about how do you embed these positive and powerful practices as you really grow a big company. It was written by Coco Selman. It's beautiful. I'm always just reading about like how do you build great cultures and inspire people. I've also been reading quite a bit of financial literacy related. Financial literacy sounds kind of infantile, but it's like, wealth journey stuff, so that I can help other women on their journey.
That's awesome. And guess what? I'm meeting Coco tomorrow in New York City.
So wonderful. Oh,
Yes.
she's just
Yes.
my heart. I love that woman.
Yes, yes. So, and I met her through How Women Lead. So thank you. Anyway, I, as always, you are amazing. I had goosebumps pretty much throughout this conversation.
Thank you.
And I'm so happy you could make the time to be on the show. Appreciate your time. And I know the audience is going to love this when we air it. Thanks, Julie. Appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you, Smitha, for reinforcing my voice.
Of course, always. I love the credo. I've embraced it.